Okay, so in this question, we are given 2 points. Remember, in order to write an arithmetic sequence, we need a couple things. So our arithmetic sequence is a to the n equals a to the 1, which is our first term, times r raised to the n minus 1. So in other words, you need 2 things. You need to know what is a to the 1, and you need to know what is r. In this case, we're not given either of those 2 things. We don't know 2 things. So in order to find this, we're going to have to create 2 equations because we have 2 unknowns. So I'm going to set up 2 equations. Equation number 1 is for the second term. So let's see, we got for the second term equals 12. And we find that by taking the first term, multiplying it to the common ratio, and that's to the n minus 1, where n in this case is the second term, so 2 minus 1. That's our setup for our second term. I'm going to do the exact same thing for our fifth term. So for our fifth term, see if you agree with me, the outcome is negative 768. We find that by taking the first term, multiplying it to the common ratio, and then n is 5, so 5 minus 1. Before I continue, is there any questions on how I found any of these values so far? Okay, I'm going to just simplify a little bit before I continue. Not a lot of simplification, but the first one can be written as 2 minus 1 is 1. And the second one can be written as 5 minus 1 is 4. Okay, so I just cleaned it up a little bit. Next, I'm going to take one of these 2 equations. It doesn't matter which. So I'm going to grab this one, though I could grab the other one. And I'm going to solve it for the first term. In other words, first term on one side, everything else on the other. So I'm just gonna kind of pull this up over here so I have some room. So I'm gonna take 12 equals the first term times the common ratio. I'm gonna solve it for the first term by dividing both sides by r. So I get 12 divided by r equals the first term. So all I've done is rewritten the orange highlighted expression. Next, because I'm using substitution, what I'm now gonna do is I'm going to take this equation right here, and I'm going to replace a1 with the value I just found. So in other words, I'm going to get negative 768 equals a1, which I just rewrote in terms of r. So that's 12 over r times r to the 4th. I'm going to pause here for just a second. Is there any questions that you have in terms of how I got that?
You always have to take the first term, like the A2 equals 12, and then, or could you take in the A5 equals 10?
So just to make sure I understand the question, you were asking, do I always have to grab this first equation, or could I have grabbed this equation? Doesn't matter. That's up to you. So grab the one that looks simpler. Okay, yes. Okay, from here, I'm going to clean things up a little bit. So notice I can do a little bit of canceling out. So I can rewrite this as negative 768 equals 12 times, I got an r that cancels out. So this is going to be r cubed. I'm then going to divide both sides by 12, which gives me negative 64. Taking the cube root of both sides, I get r equals negative 4. I'm going to pause again here, see if you have any questions.
Why did it go from 4 to 3?
4 to 3.
Or, yeah.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So the reason is so you remember you can rewrite this. I'm going to rewrite this just a little bit. So the reason why the exponent changed is you can write this like this. So there is a power of r that I can cancel out from top and bottom, which is exactly what I did.
Okay.
And that's how I got the cube there. Any other questions? Okay, now no, I'm almost done here. Notice I know what I now know what r is. In order to find the first term, hey, look at this. I have an equation that's solved for the first term. All I got to do is plug in r. So I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to do that off to the right. So I got 12 over r equals the first term. Just kind of rewriting that. Let's plug in our value for r. So 12 over negative 4 equals our first term. So negative 3 equals our first term. So now we have r, we have our first term. We're ready to write our equation. So our equation, and I'm going to do this in red over on the left because I have really left myself very little room. A to the n equals our first term, which we found to be negative 3, times r, which was negative 4, raised to the power of n minus 1. Question?
Okay, you have the equation, right?
Uh-huh.
And you have r. Why can't you just know that all a equals 1 is 12? I mean, it's negative 3. Because what else times negative 4 equals 12?
Oh, so you mean could you, so just to be clear, so you're saying now that you know what r is, why couldn't you have just gone from here?
Yeah.
You could have. This one, the only reason I chose this one is it directly gives me the value. I don't have to do any algebra at all. And you've already done this. This math was already done because you had to go and solve one of them for r. So because I did the work, I might as well use it. But you don't have to. You could absolutely plug it in there. Anything else? Okay, let me